All right, it's time to talk some Warriors basketball here on the Death Lineup. We've been a little inconsistent with the pod, but we are heating up the end of the season here. I think I saw 22 games left. Is that right?
That sounds right. I thought like in the 20s. How many?
And in their last 14, they're 11-3. So they have been playing a ton better. The litmus test games, which I always say, like the games you don't expect them to win, but you kind of want to see how they measure up. They measured up against Denver decently, and then they got boat raced in Boston yesterday. I think Kerr would probably call the Boston game a scheduled loss
Yeah.
because it was at the back end of a road trip. And the game before that they played on Friday, where they were a little sluggish in beating Toronto, there was some travel issues. And so it's just the end of the road trip. I didn't expect them to win. But what did you think of the excuse that they gave, which was they decided, according to Draymond, 15 minutes before tip, to adjust their defensive strategy and basically sag off of Jaylen Brown?
I think I think that means a few things. I think that means that they maybe didn't have the best answer to stop them to begin with. And I think that means I didn't think it was like that um that dumb to do. I kind of got the rationale, but I think they held on to it a little too long. I think JB was like 2 of 4 from three when they were doing it, which is 50%, which is like, not good. They're all wide open. Like the two of them he missed, he's, contemplating in the corner, not contemplating. He was going to shoot it, but he's taking his time because you're leaving him wide open. And he missed two of them. So I didn't think it was the worst strategy, but I think that, it just got him going. It didn't work. It got him going. It got him fired up. And I think quite clearly the Boston Celtics really wanted to beat the Warriors. Like this was a game that they, really wanted to take advantage of from the jump. Maybe we didn't expect a 50-point blowout or whatever it was, but I think that they were ready to go. Whereas the Warriors, no excuses in terms of like I thought they were going to lose, but no excuses in terms of how bad they were going to lose. But I think there is something to the scheduled loss there. And I mean, now they know, right? Probably not to do it again. I mean, in the finals, they literally got in his head. So I don't think it was that far fetched to try and do it again in a different way.
Was it a little bit of a cop out though? Because to me, you as a team, you should want to go toe to toe with these guys, and you should want to, test yourself against these guys. But in some instances, it seems like these teams, uh, they kind of expect to lose in a sense, and that's the thing that I was a little frustrated with. It's like, why don't you just go out and, at least in the first quarter, like what are they afraid of? There was no Kristaps, he was not playing. So Kerr's excuse was we didn't want to give up easy twos. And it's like, well, who's going to score the easy twos? I guess, I mean, Jaylen and Tatum, but if you're running them off the line, then they're actually going to have to make basketball plays. That's the part that I didn't understand. But it almost seemed like we're going to lose this game anyways. Here's going to be our excuse when we lose. And then they just lost like so much more than I'm sure that they thought. And that's kind of the thing. I was just like, how do you even lose this poorly? It's I don't like those give up games in the NBA, but they do happen from time to time.
Yeah, does it feel like there's like a theme here since one time where they feel maybe as though some of these wins aren't as important and we can just make it up in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at it strategically, do you go all out and possibly lose this game, or do you kind of use it as a rest game? And they used it as a rest game. I saw Lester Quinones was the leading scorer with 17, so he got some run, and all the vets got to sit in the second half. It probably is smart. It just doesn't make for a good product. Right? Like we had this
Mhm.
discussion around the All-Star game. Like, is the All-Star game a good product? And then you're on national television. If you are a casual NBA fan, you're like, oh, wait, I think I saw this. This is the finals from 2 years ago. And then the Warriors just go out there and they don't even really try. And I would be frustrated if I was somebody in the NBA office about how that
Yeah.
happened last night. But
Yeah.
Steve Kerr could tell himself, well, they scheduled it that way. Like, you knew that that was a possibility if you're going to schedule it that way. Um, I was talking to a friend who is a Boston Celtics fan, and his heart was broken in the 2022 finals, and he said, "Finally, we beat you guys." And I was like, "Really?" Like, that was my response. Like,
They
this
beat
is
us
the
last year
game.
too.
Yeah, yeah, they did. And the Warriors generally play them really well for some reason. Like,
Yeah.
there's some time where I'm like, Warriors should kind of get run off the court here and they play them well. But I was
That's
just
probably
like,
what he meant. Is
yeah.
like, we didn't just beat you guys, like we beat you guys.
So,
But
but my
yeah,
my
regular season wins.
my follow-up was like, you guys can't be the Alex Rodriguez of the NBA. Like, you guys can't be just good in the regular season. Like, it's Denver. Like, that's who you have your eye on. That's who you're trying to beat, and you want to see Denver in the finals, and you want to beat Denver in the finals. That's how you tell, you're a Boston Celtics fan. That's what you want. That's how you want to do this whole thing. And I think they got a great chance. Um, they have such a talented basketball team, and they have some nice pieces, but it is that toughness that they seem to always fall back on, and they're unable to that they can be out toughed, as you saw last year, as Miami gets into the finals. So I think it's a great experiment here with them just blowing through the East, because the thing that you probably want, if you're a Celtics fan, you probably want it to be a little tougher so that your team gets those hard reps. They're probably going to breeze through at least the first two rounds of the playoffs too, and then they'll get a tough matchup. But that's what you want if you're a Celtics fan. You're like, I don't want this to be easy. Like, we want it to
I think
be difficult.
I think it's different with us. Like, I think they really I think they really would rather beat us by 50 and take us out in a close one. Like, I think this did mean a little
Yeah, yeah,
more
yeah,
because
yeah.
of the
For this game, for sure, I agree with you. They just wanted that revenge or whatever. But it just makes me laugh that this is like revenge for losing the finals, like, to some
Yeah.
people. Um, so the Warriors did a few things to kick off the second half, and we talked a little bit about this because I think did Clay move to the bench before the All-Star break, or was it after the All-Star
No.
break? It was right
Oh, I think
before.
it was before.
I
Yeah.
think it was right before. So we talked about
Yeah, I
this a
think it
little bit.
was.
But we have some games seeing the experiment, and then Pajemski gets hurt. But I actually like Clay coming in as a six man. It almost feels like, now you wouldn't have seen this because the NBA doesn't really work this way anymore. But in the late '80s, the Pistons had a guy, and I've seen some comparisons made. Vinnie Johnson was the Pistons, like, he was like one of the first famous six men, and they called him the microwave because when he would come in, the offense would get hot. He would heat up the offense, and they would start playing well. It was also that they're playing against the other team's second tier players.
Mhm.
And so to see Clay play well against the other team's bench, it makes a lot of sense, right? It makes sense that he feels confident. He's maybe gets a little bit extra room on that shot because maybe a tier one defender is not guarding him. And the better that he shoots, I think his confidence is just going to go up in general. So I kind of like the idea of it. And he's still not shooting like Clay, the Clay that we expect, but it does seem like that six-man role is working a lot better than him starting. But now he's back in the starting lineup until Pajemski comes back, I guess. But overall, what are your thoughts on that move so far?
I think it's the right move. I think it's the move we've been like tiptoeing around for like the past 2 years of like, oh, look, Steph came off the bench in the first game of the Western Conference first round series against Denver. Draymond came off the bench against the Sacramento game. And that all just kept getting pointed out to be like, Clay hasn't done it yet. And Clay's the one that kind of needs to do it. Now it's kind of like a permanent move, which I think I think it's good. I mean, I think what really is gonna uh I mean, I think just the return of CP, how much we've heard reports that CP is like really wants to get Clay going. Like I can't like this. I just want to see them get more reps together before. But I think this was the right move. I just think the bigger question or the bigger picture outlook should be, in my opinion, I don't think Pajemski should be starting. I think that when we saw that starting five against Denver, it's like holy mismatch. You have Steph and Pajemski, who you don't want guarding Jamal Murray on the other end.
Yep.
So it's Wiggins or JK guarding Jamal Murray. Well, guess who gets thrown on Michael Porter Jr.? Brandon Pajemski at 6'3". It makes no sense. So at that point, I think they just got to not rush, but they just, once Wiggins gets back, I guess. Like I think Moody needs to play the 2 spot. I think there needs to be a lot of coaching and coming his ear that right when you get the ball, I think you should go, because I think that's what Pajemski brings. He brings confidence in dribbling the ball. It brings, something that Kuminga doesn't have, but is like calm. When he has the ball in his hand, it's not all like sporadic. He's like pretty controlled with it. I don't think you can like fix that part of Kuminga's thing in one season, but just like get him like the green light right when you get a rebound to go, because that's what I think Brandon Pajemski helps in that lineup, and I think they do need that person in the lineup alongside Steph and Dre. And if you replace Pajemski with Moody, you basically just get rid of that, because Kuminga hasn't done it and Moody can't do it, and Wiggs is not going to really do it.
Okay, I'm going to push back slightly on if you do change out Pajemski from Moody.
I know. What does
Moody do that Clay is not going to do? And I'm going to give you one, which is he's going to get deflections. He's going to get deflections. He's going to get loose balls. He's going to fight for position.
Rebounds.
Maybe rebounds as well. So it seems to be mostly in the defensive end. But then on the offensive end, he seems to be a little bit too he questions himself a lot, and thus I think the ball stalls. But I mean, so
but I think to that point, though, what we saw with JK, I feel like we probably would have said a lot about the same about JK in the beginning of the year and last year as well, and you could directly attribute that to needs playing time to become more confident. That's how that works.
But do you see that decision making? Have we ever seen the decision making?
I think Moody is a smarter basketball player than maybe he gets credit for. I feel like that was kind of him coming out. I know we said it a couple times on this podcast. When Kuminga and Moody got drafted, Moody was looked to be the more pro-ready prospect, as Kuminga was the project. And so I think Moody has the capability to like do a lot of the dirty work that I feel like has earned Lester Quinones and Guy Santos even some playing time over this stretch. Was they just do all the little things that Kerr loves when they're playing with Steph: screen for Steph every time, cut for Steph, rebound. And I think Moody is given these minutes. I think he can learn to do some of that stuff. And I think along with that, you're rewarded with, easy cuts to the basket and more opportunities. And I could see what you mean by some of the lack of, confident decision making. I think sometimes he's a little slow to put up the shot when he gets it. He's like not sure if he should shoot it. And sometimes I think as well, what gets him out of the rotation a lot is when he kind of aimlessly drives to the rim with, really no idea of what's to come.
No move.
He gets in the paint. Yeah, it's just like, what are you doing? I think, but just from the defensive perspective and just from, I think Pajemski's great, but like, if you face Denver and Pajemski's on Michael Porter Jr., and there's going to be a situation like this a lot, like with Boston, who would you have been on?
Yeah, no, it's in some scenarios, having him out there is actually the flip for the other team. They're like, oh my gosh, we got to chase this guy around the court, and we got nothing but 6'8" guys. Like I could see that being a scenario for the other team.
He's not really as much of like the off-ball mover that like Steph, Clay, and Poole were, though. Is he? I guess I don't notice it as much.
No, but he does hide very well, and then he crashes the rebounds really well. He's kind of sneaky. You got to kind of keep your eye on him because he's going into spots where maybe you're not expecting him to. But okay, so we have a couple of other things. You mentioned Wiggs. He's out again. and it sounds like it's. I mean, we don't know for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was similar for a similar reason as last time. I mean, I hope it's not, because that is probably not the greatest news for family wise for him. But we're kind of going through this same thing again, which does open up some minutes for Moody. But at the same time, I'm just like, man, I would love to see these guys get into some rhythm as 20 games left in the season. And it's just unfortunate that, these things happen and we don't have Wiggins to be out there just to continue getting reps with his squad.
Yeah, I mean, when have we had a full squad this entire season? And, you know, like we haven't had it since it feels like they figured out the starting lineup, because CP was down and now C's back. Right when CP comes back, Woods is gone. So yeah, we just haven't had that rhythm, continuity with and I mean, it's something that like I guess we couldn't totally predict the Wiggs thing again, but like that's kind of what happens when at least you have like the older guys on your roster. Is like we knew CP would have one of these injuries and that would keep him out for a couple games. It's been a while since, like, Steph usually has one of these once a year or two, and I don't think he's had his yet. That keeps him out for like 8 to 10 games in the regular season.
Cross your fingers.
Right? And I was saying that about the Suns too. Kevin Durant hasn't had that, and he's had one like every single season for the past, since the Warriors. And so, I mean, yeah, it's tough, but not to say we totally expected it, but I'm not entirely surprised either.
Yeah. So, we're back to using. We haven't used this graphic in a long time, the Kamudi watch. So you want both of these dudes on at the same time, and they're playing at the same time right now. So we do get to see that a little bit. Yeah. So for Wiggins, I mean, last year what he did is he came back right at the end of right at the beginning of the playoffs. Right, he had to work his way back into shape in the beginning of the playoffs.
Game one was
was
been missed since like the Warriors. Like, did he even play in January of that season? I don't even remember. But yeah, he missed a lot of time and then played game one of the playoffs.
Yeah, which isn't
good.
great. Though I guess we could say that he will be better. I think the team is actually better to, if that happens, they are better suited depth wise to deal with it. But still, if he's one of your best guys, you want your best guys, right? I think we both agree about that. So you mentioned it. I didn't want to put it out there in the ether because it scares me. Steph, he's been generally healthy all year. He's even resisted wanting to rest. But there are some games where he doesn't look like he's got that pep in his step. Long season, it's kind of how it works in the NBA. I almost wanted yesterday to be the rest game for him, and it was a half of a rest game, but he still was out there and running around with this knee bursitis or whatever it is. And I don't know, he seems tired. I don't know if you can selectively give him a few games here and there, because once the playoffs ramps up, then he's got to be ready to go. But he does seem winded. He does seem. I'm hoping it's not like injuries, because they'll hide stuff like that if it's not super serious. But he has some games where he looks sluggish, especially on the defensive end.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather honestly not long-term injury, of course, but I'd rather like a slight injury to be the reason to explain his not really great season I feel like he's been having. He was awesome to start the year, but I think he's been a little up and down since then.
That's kind of how it happened last year too. I feel last year was sort of like that.
I'm trying to remember, but yeah, I mean, they need him at his best if they want any chance. If they want any chance whatsoever, they need him like scoring 30 a night.
Yeah, the shooting situation seems a little odd because I think I haven't looked at the splits lately, but I think his overall field goal percentage is just down a little bit, and thus the threes are down. Now he's taking more than ever, and he's probably going to make Uh, he's gonna, he's leading the league again by a large margin. So he's shooting it. It just doesn't seem to come as easy right now. And the changes in the way that they defend him, he's dealing with that all time long. But now, and this goes back to the Clay thing. If he is with Pajemski and Wiggins and Kuminga and Draymond, there is not a shooter next to him at the beginning of these games. Now, later in the game, maybe towards the end, if Clay's playing, there's a shooter. CP's not really a shooter. So I still don't
Mm-mm.
feel like we've necessarily solved the issue of helping Steph with space. And that is not something a Siakam would have helped with. I'm
He'd
trying to
probably be
think
the second best shooter on this damn team.
but
It just
like
says more about the team than
the problem is still there, right? Like he just doesn't
yeah.
have the space. Like it's just still he's getting double and triple teamed and trapped, and they don't even they just face guard. They don't even guard. They guard him. They don't do the between the man and the basket with him. They just guard him and they're like, oh, if he gets by me, then someone else will step up. Like that's the defense. So I don't think that pulling Clay out of the lineup doesn't solve that. But then having Clay in that lineup and Clay misses, that doesn't help either. I don't know what the
Mm-mm.
solution is there, but I guess Pods gives them space to dribble and create some other opportunities, and maybe the offense moves a little better with Pods instead of Clay. But I don't know. I just don't sense that they have figured that piece out yet.
Yeah, and even more so to like figuring out this team is like I think JK's been getting crowned a little too much for my liking from like national media, like thinking he's like the second coming. And were you worried at all watching that Boston game with kind of how it feels like they got an easy scouting report of just be physical, let him shoot threes, but like just don't let him get to his spots, which are like the key and anywhere near the rim. And I feel like he was a tough watch. And I feel
He
like teams
threw
have
up. He threw
yeah,
up
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
a one-handed jump shot. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Like he
From near
like
the free throw line? That one?
No, it was actually towards the baseline. So
Oh.
he stepped in, or no, I think he may have like dribbled in, and the person backed away. And so instead of taking his normal little jumper, he was almost surprised, and he went up just with one hand. It was like in between a floater and a jump shot. He didn't have the guide hand with him. I was like, what is he doing? He was just all out of sorts, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just a little like I don't think he's, I don't think this takes away anything from like the long-term player he could be. I'm talking more so like short term of we didn't get a second star, so is the collection of JK Wiggs and whoever else can add to that, equal the same value as what a second star would provide. And I think I'm worried about JK, what he could do now based on how Boston defended him. And, quite frankly, Boston's one of the best defensive teams in the league. They have all these wings that will probably make it tougher for him. But I feel like the scouting report, I feel like teams have started to slowly adjust of like, you see the Scotty Barnes clip, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
Scotty, like, getting ready to take a charge before JK has even taken off from like 2 feet behind the 3-point line. And I think teams are like starting to adjust to that. I'm wondering how JK's, gonna counter and respond.
Yeah, it's got to be way more cuts without the basketball, I think, than it is him handling as much. Unless he decides to use that to his advantage and shoot the mid range, because the mid range looks nice. He just doesn't shoot it that often. He's not obviously not confident in it as much, but
Mm.
when he does shoot it, I think he's got great touch on it.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like it really only feels like from the top of from the key though, like not really from like the corners of where he
Yeah,
fades. It doesn't feel like it always goes in. It's more so like just, having a straight line from the
like
from the
Draymond,
middle of the paint.
like Draymond's
Yeah.
three, top of the key.
I wonder, like, what would it look like if Kuminga kind of took Draymond's spot? Not a starting lineup of any, but like Draymond being the screen setter for Steph, who gets the ball in the 3-on-2 or the 4-on-3, and then makes a decision. Like, what would that look like? Because I think how
Probably slow.
you think, yeah, maybe because how Jokic was picked apart against Denver, and I think he's more so like dude, I'll give Draymond the damn floater. Like, I don't even think Draymond wants to shoot it anyways. But like having Kuminga there instead, like a guy who wants to score,
Mm-hmm.
he'd just be more reluctant to pass, and then teams would probably cover the score, and then he'd make a wild pass. Yeah, no, it's just I think this team is not going. I okay. Here. Let's.
Oh,
I did pull this up for the pod.
we're gonna do this exercise in a second, and we might be
Okay.
thinking of something similar, but we're gonna go through all of the teams in front of them and figure out who they have a chance against and who they do not have a chance against.
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna say like I picked a date. It was after they lost to the Kings and the Lakers, so it's kind of a cherry picked date because I picked the Sixers game right after, which is kind of what started their like winning streak. And
You
since
mean
that date,
when Kuminga landed on Embiid's leg?
or was that the second Sixers game that started this? But yeah, I know
Oh.
what you're talking about, the first Sixers game. But since like that, I think they're like fourth or fifth in win percentage, but
Mhm.
like 10th in offense and like eighth in defense, and they're like ninth in net rating. So like I think I think they're better than what their record suggests for sure. But yeah, I mean it's kind of been like an easier little schedule here for them, right? Like we've really just seen like Denver and Boston once. Have we beat like any good teams that I can think of in this stretch? Like any really quality? Oh, the
depending if
Suns.
the Knicks good? Do you consider the
No,
Knicks to be a
not
good
well.
team?
The Knicks are really good, but they're missing like three of their starters. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't really count that one, I guess. But the Suns one was awesome, but they barely won that one.
Yeah.
Um,
Lost to the
I mean,
Clippers.
Indiana was Halliburton playing, but they've been a little unimpressive. I'd still count that as a relatively impressive win.
You know they almost have the
And lost to the
same
Clippers.
record as the Pacers right now.
And the Pacers are like the 6th seed.
Pacers are 8 now. The Pacers are they're only a game behind the Heat, but the Bulls are pretty much done. But the Bulls are only 5 games behind the Pacers in for number 8. For the number
Pacers are
8.
probably the 6th or 5th seed like 2 games ago too. Like East's like winning their win totals and loss totals like equals like some of the middle of the pack East teams equal like the 10th seed in the West.
Yeah, they're two losses or they're 2 wins behind the Knicks for the 4 seed.
Yeah. So I guess I'm just saying that like they've been better and they're better than what their record suggests, but they're still not like they're not anywhere better than like the 6th seed or the 5th seed, I'd say, in terms of just like
Yes.
talent.
And so what does that realistically mean, being the 5th seed or the 6th seed? So let's go through the top teams in the West. And I actually think it is in their best interest to position themselves wherever the Thunder are,
I
because
think so too.
matchup wise, they would actually match up the best against the Thunder and they'd be able to slow the Thunder down a little bit come playoffs. But okay, so right now in the West, Thunder are 42-18. I
They're the
think
first seed, right?
yes. I think the Warriors are competitive in a 7-game series against the Thunder.
I think they'd win. That's really like one of the only teams at the top. I'd be like, I think the Warriors would beat you in a 7-game series. All 4 of those games were tight. The Warriors won one of them on a buzzer. The Chet one that got fouled, and then the Chet one where he hit the buzzer beater against Wiz. Like they've all been close, and that's been without a Warriors full squad, and that's been before the Warriors figured out their rotation. So I do think we'd beat OKC. And we kind of just do what we did, we'd Kings them, right? What we did to the Kings last season. Like, here's our experience. We're just going to try to, scare you guys and mentally get in your head and just be experienced in the playoffs. So I think they could do that to them. But when you start going down the list, even like Minnesota, who are a little like, either, they play like the drunk basketball in the playoffs sometimes. Like, I still would be worried about their length and, them.
Right now they're number 2. They're right behind. They're half a game behind the Thunder. And they are a tough match because they are so long.
Yeah.
Like, when you have Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid and just these really long guys, it's hard for the Warriors to even get shots up. And then, of course, they have the big defensive center in the middle who the Warriors will try to play off the court, but I'm not sure. That may have worked well 5 years ago, but it doesn't work as well today. But yeah, I don't think they beat the Timberwolves at this point.
I don't think so either. I don't think they beat the Clippers. That's the next one, right?
No, the next one's actually the Nugs.
Denver. Oh, go. I don't. I mean,
that one might be 5-game series. The Warriors.
I think they'd give. I think they'd give the Nuggets the hardest first round out of anyone, but I still think the Nuggets would win.
Clippers. I think they play the Clippers pretty close. I would probably give the Clippers a slight advantage.
Yeah.
But I think they can play them close. I think where the Clippers will edge the Warriors out is they just have more scorers on their team. More like if Harden is off or if Paul George is off, then they could bring guys in off the bench to pick up that scoring. Whereas the Warriors don't. The Warriors can get bench scoring, but it's usually like a collective thing. It's not like they rely on one guy to come in and get hot. And maybe that's where Clay fits in. Maybe that's where Clay, as the sixth man, he becomes that thing for them because like Powell, right? That one game where the Warriors lost against the Clippers where they were up, he just hits like 5 threes in the fourth quarter and they lose. So that is where I think the Clippers have them. And, Kawhi in a 7-game series is going to be hard out for them.
The only way they beat the Clippers is if the Clippers do what the Clippers do every single year and like get hurt. Yes. Kawhi did not play last year. Paul George did not play last year. Kawhi played the first 2 games and it looked like they were going to win the series against the Suns, and then he's out for a while. But yeah, I mean, I think if we take a pause right here and who we think the Warriors can beat, this isn't like this isn't. What am I trying to say? Like, this isn't the end all be all for the, like, they can get better. Again, we still have 22 games left. I counted it. There is 22 games left. I think they just need to show like rotations working, especially with CP coming back. They need Wiggs back, of course, for us to really understand. But like, if they like whoop a good team and it is like, oh wow, CP second unit, like with Clay, like everyone kind of performed well. The first unit like looked like a really good defensive unit with Steph being able to score 30. Like, I would probably change my mind on a lot of these things, but I don't, I'm not too confident on that happening. And I'm not, I guess I'm just saying, like, yeah, we're saying this now. This could still change, but at this current moment, what's the next team? Suns?
So I would favor the Warriors over the Pelicans and the Kings at this point.
Yeah, me too.
Suns are.
You think the Kings? Well, the Kings want to get their get back, man.
I'm sure they want it. I'm sure they do want.
I'm in a chat with. I mean, the BAM pod itself is just like 7 Kings fans on accident. I didn't mean to do that. There was a conversation lately about Obi. I feel bad for Obi because I wasn't on the pod with him, and he was just getting like, bombarded. Triple teamed on Kings propaganda of Sabonis being better than Bam Adebayo. And I was like, oh, if I was there, I would have tried to join in for you because Obi's a Heat fan and he's a fan of Bam. And I think my rationale is pretty simple. Like, the last time we saw Sabonis in meaningful basketball, he was rendered useless. The Warriors got in his head and it wasn't great. Sabonis,
they did the Jaylen Brown thing with him. They
did the Jaylen Brown thing. Exactly. It's not a terrible strategy. I think it's just have to know when to quit it if it's not working. But like, I think that, Sabonis just needs to have a good playoff series for me to change my mind about him. Bam's been to the finals twice. He's not the best player. If you're going to start a team, you're probably going to take Sabonis, but over Bam, but you're not too excited about like Sabonis being the best player on a championship team. He's not going to win a championship. But I think, I guess my point to that is like, I mean, if Sabonis is going to have a good playoffs, it's got to be this one. It's like he's 27 in the prime of his career. He's having like the best regular season he's ever had in his life. So I would say the Warriors still, but like if Sabonis plays like what, 10% better than he played against us last time, 20% better than he played against us last, it's a different series, right? Like
all
like
Harry had to do was make an open 3-pointer,
and the series is over. Just one. I remember
we would have been
Chase
so sad.
We were at Chase watching that. Oh my god!
Our reaction was That's the Harry B we know and love. Thank you, Harry B. Like, you're a warrior
Yes.
at heart. That's what our reaction was. So,
Yep.
um, all right, now you get to Suns. Like I said, I think the Suns are a toss up because I think that series is as much about Booker as it is about KD. I don't know what you think about who's the best player on their team. KD's going to get his, and KD's going to score, but Booker just gives the Warriors problems.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm as a Warriors fan, I'm more scared of Booker, but at the same time, I feel like Booker's the better player in my mind going into this season. But how they've used Booker with KD and Brad Beal as Booker being like the point guard,
Yeah.
I think he's had like not the greatest year because of it. He's still amazing and elite, but yeah, I think I would still be most worried about him. But I think that I think we could beat them. But they've had the same issue as us, and that's what happens when you pay $100 million like three players, or
Yeah.
no more than that. It's probably like 150 or something to three players. They're not healthy. They're not here. Booker's out now for some time, and Beal just got back, and they haven't had the same thing we haven't had.
I saw Nurkic had like 30 rebounds the other day. That he is the guy that would actually swing me to think that the Warriors would win that series, though, because
Yeah,
the Warriors have beaten all of his teams every single
they've never
year.
lost Nurkic.
Right. Not that he's the most he's maybe the fourth most important player on that team, but he is so involved in this Draymond feud that I just think I think he would be I think the Warriors would figure out how to exploit him in 7 games, and I think that
I wouldn't be surprised. Like they haven't really done this, I feel, but I think that his replacement level players like aren't. What's that stat in baseball? Like your
wins
war,
over wins above
yeah.
replacement.
He probably has an insane war because like his replacement is Eubanks, who was his backup in Portland, and I almost feel like if the Suns went small with like KD, that I think that I would be scared. I just like relying on them to like, okay, we played Nurkic off. All right, get in here, Eubanks, and try your best. And then I'd be like, okay, we have a good shot. But if they like went small and embraced like, a lineup of Book, Beal, Grayson Allen, and or Eric Gordon, Royce O'Neal, and KD, I'd be like, shit.
It would be an interesting thing for them to do for sure. And then you would get a lot of Draymond on KD.
You don't need to, but yes. But the thing is with the Suns though, is I like a lot of their guys are guys that I think would be good on they're solid role players. You talk about Eric Gordon, solid role player, like to come off in a playoff rotation specifically. Grayson Allen
Also
I feel
has
like
never
proved,
beat the Warriors, by the way, Eric
also has
Gordon.
never been the Warriors.
You know what?
Grayson Allen,
The year before they won the title, I think he might have been on that Clippers team.
Clippers
Maybe
team.
he has.
Yeah.
I think he maybe have been on that Clippers team.
Eric Gordon, one of those guys who I feel like would be on most playoff rotations, that like the top 8, top 7 playoff rotation pieces. Grayson Allen, I feel like is starting to prove that he is that as well. Royce O'Neal is another one, 3-and-D. Like, would love to have him on the Warriors. And there's one more that I can't think of. What did I say? Eric Gordon,
Is Okogie still playing for them?
Okogie hurts the Warriors. He's a Warrior killer. Yeah, but he's hurt right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they even have like Damian Lee, who hasn't played a single game this season. But like, my point is like all those guys are like the same height. They're like 6'4", and so that could be a tough small ball line for them when you're literally playing 4 6'4" guys, and then Kevin Durant is your 5. But it'd still be kind of fun to watch.
All right, now some teams who they may see in these play-in games. Let's start with Dallas. Offensively, Dallas is going to be a problem for them. Kyrie and Luka, not to say that the Warriors cannot play with those guys, because I'm sure Steph would see Kyrie as a great challenge. But they have the ability to really slow the game down and make it Luka in his way of scoring the back. Oh, like we saw it in the Western Conference Finals. If Luka had a little bit more of a supporting cast, we would have been a little bit more worried about that series. But he's just putting up 40 points every single game, hitting threes off of his heel. Just like he's just an amazing bucket getter. And I think this team is better than his team from 2 years ago.
And we're worse.
We're worse. And so it just I think that would be a very close matchup. I mean, I probably would think maybe Dallas is favored depending on if they're
I
at
think they
home,
would be. I think
but I
right now in this moment, if these two teams play each other in a win or go home, I think the Warriors would win. But that's just because I think Dallas, their trade deadline acquisitions, awesome. PJ
Mhm.
Washington, Daniel Gafford, like fixes like a lot of the defense and like just athleticism that I feel like they were lacking. But they're not
Plus they got
another.
rid of Grant.
Plus they got rid of Chubby Grant, but they're
The Warriors would have went at Grant.
yeah, if Grant was still on the team, I'd probably confidently pick the Warriors. But they are not like the common theme of what we've been saying with Phoenix and the Warriors is they haven't really had the rhythm or the continuity since like I think they're still figuring out the trade deadline acquisitions and how to put them into the rotation. They just got to exit them back. Right now, I would pick the Warriors, but fast forward to the end of the season, it's probably a safe bet to pick Mavericks.
All right, and now the team that the NBA wants in one of those two spots, just like they want the Warriors in one of those last two spots, is the Lakers. They possibly will have to play a play-in like they did, what, 3-4 years ago? They had that play-in game that the Warriors
They played
lost?
the play-in last year.
No, I'm saying, remember they had to play the Warriors in the play-in.
Oh, yeah. That was the year before they won the title, right?
Yeah. Um, and no, that was the year I think it's the
After
year
the Lakers won the
after.
title,
Yeah,
but the
year
year
after.
before the Warriors
Year
won the
before
title.
Warriors won the title. So imagine Warriors Lakers in a play-in game.
I'd
That
be
would be
scared of it. I
crazy.
think we should. I think we're better than what we are. We better than what we were last year. I think we'd beat them in a 7 game. I'd be worried about a 1 game. Like just
Again,
the way LeBron gets up for that game, man.
yeah, and he
Yeah,
slows the game down, and
flashbacks.
like the thing about it is, so that crazy double OT game, probably the best game in the entire regular season so far. The, the Lakers need a bucket. That's all they need is a bucket, and he just gets the bucket. It's like
Yep, so easy for
it,
him.
it was easy, and there was like I don't know what the Warriors defense expected. Now they were all tired as all heck, but all he did was put his shoulder in and go to the hole and got an easy layup and won, and the game was over. Like that, it shouldn't be that easy for him, especially because the Warriors have played him so often. You would think that they would have some sort of defense, like force him into the three or something, and they couldn't do that. So I would be fearful, but you're more fearful of a healthy Anthony Davis than you are
Yeah,
of LeBron
100%.
right
That guy's
now.
who beat them. That guy's who beat us
Yeah,
last year.
and so but look, so basically what we're saying is the Warriors are playing better, but they still have a giant mountain in front of them. Again, the Pelicans, the Kings, Suns, Mavericks, those are competitive series. The Thunder but there are some teams in here that, man, they look like bad matchups for the Warriors. So let's look at the schedule, the
Yeah.
schedule coming up. So we have
Well, because
another.
we should say though, we should say the Warriors are the 9th seed right now. What the 5th seed is? Where's that GB stat? Games back. Okay, so
They are 3.5
three
behind the
and a half,
Pelicans. Yeah.
3.5 behind the Pelicans at 5, and then 2.5 behind the Kings
Yes.
at 6.
I mean,
Okay, so
all
yeah,
that
that's good
said, like,
schedule.
yeah, this is all interchangeable. If they could get to 6, they would avoid all of this stuff that is going to give us stomach
And
aches.
around the NBA, like the teams they've been needing to lose are losing. Like
Hmm.
Phoenix is on a 2-game losing streak with Booker out, now for extended time. So,
Mavs
there's a
as well.
chance here. Mavs as well have been losing. I think they'll figure it out, but they have been losing. And I think the Lakers have been
Lakers
they
lost
lost
their
to
last
Denver.
game. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's see the schedule.
All right. So another litmus test game on Wednesday. The Bucks, who are second seed in the East, though they're 8.5 games behind the Celtics for second place in the East. They've won 5, so Doc has got it all figured out in the East. Like I said, another litmus test game, not a game that you expect them to win, but a game where you want to see where are they in comparison. And I know Giannis is out today. I can't imagine he's going to miss Wednesday unless he's really hurt. We had a comment in the stream here. Why is Greek Freak resting tonight? But we'll be ready to go Wednesday. Yeah, like I thought the
I,
same
I
thing, man.
I feel like this might be a pretty obscure stat that I'm literally just thinking of off the top of my head. I don't think the Bucks have beat them in Chase Center since Wiseman was on the roster. Because you remember last year we were at that pizza joint
Yes.
after watching Creed
Yep.
and Steph blocked Drew Holiday to win the game. The year before that, their championship year, pretty sure they killed the Bucks by like 40 at Chase. And then the year before that, Wiseman was on the roster, and I almost remember them like it was near like Christmas time that they lost.
Mm.
So I mean, the schedule loss. I mean, this Bucks team, they almost beat them without Steph at Bucks home arena, and I mean the Bucks have been playing better lately, but I wouldn't call that one to me might be a flip of the coin. Just, but again, I guess what's the looking at the standings, what's the Warriors' home record?
They are they are 16 and 15 on the at home and 16 and 13 on the road. It's really
God.
their Western Conference record that sucks. Out of the top 10 in the West, so we just named all of those teams, they're the only team in the top 10 in the West who is under 500 in the West, and they're 5 games under 500. Like even the Lakers are 2 games over 500 against the West. So,
Again, I don't
I
know.
mean, these are teams that they're going to possibly be playing, but they also have the Mavericks a few times. And like you said, they got dominated by the Nuggets, so that's part of it. But okay, and then Thursday, so back to back, both these games are at home. It is Warriors against the Bulls, sneaky Bulls. I expected the Bulls to be one of the worst teams in the league, but they are not. So that is, we'll see how that plays out. And then Saturday, Wemby comes to town. You should probably try and figure out how to go to that game. Is he going to be? Are they going to have more Wemby games still? Because I know they play a back to back. They play a home and home Saturday and Monday. But no, Wemby. Yeah, I think that's the last time Wemby comes into town. So
Luckily, I mean,
Saturday.
I've seen him, at Summer League,
Yeah,
but that would be a cool game to go to. Dude, have you seen some of his stuff? Like he is like top 5 defensive rating in
it's
the
awesome.
league. Like top 3 or something like that. Like he himself is, oh my God. Yeah,
It's to the point of where he does something that doesn't look possible, and your brain has to kind of like understand what just happened because you've never seen it before. Like
if he
that's the
doesn't
kind of
get
stuff that he does.
if he doesn't get every single first place vote for rookie of the year, I think we need to look at some credentials being
There's gonna be
stripped.
some Chet fans, man.
Yeah, watch it. Yeah, I mean, there's the only, and they're gonna say, "Oh, Chet impacted winning." Like, stop, man. Stop. Like, I think I don't know what the Spurs defensive rating is. I thought I saw a number lately that maybe it's getting better, but just him having that defensive rating alone is absurd. Being just like completely transforming their defense in the minutes he's in the game. Man, there's an argument that he should be defensive player of the year, but it'll never happen because I think you always need to have like your team defensive rating as like top 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Which is kind of
totally.
scary.
All right. So I guess that's kind of it. Now, the rest of the season, like we said, 22 games. Where do you think we'll end on this question. Where do you think they can get, and where do you want, like pie in the sky, where would you want to see them as far as in the playoff hunt? Like where could they get?
Oof. I'm trying to get to the standings again. So I mean, what we said, 3.5 back from 5,
Mm-hmm.
and that would mean a 4-5 versus the Clippers. It's like not even rewarding to get the high because I'd rather play the Thunder than any of those 4 teams
Mm-hmm. That's
at
what
the
I was
top.
saying. They need to figure out how to play exactly where those guys are.
But then the plan, just get to 7. Get to 7.
and take your
But
chances.
they could get to 6. They really could get to 6. But that would mean a first round matchup against none other than the Denver Nuggets. I mean, well, the thing is that OKC is not like they're what, half game up on the first seed. So
Mhm.
hypothetically, like I would just try to match up with them, man. I would, but that usually never works. Like doing it exactly how you want it,
Yeah.
and
I
expecting
mean,
the
they
other team.
kind of were able to do that last year. They got the matchup that they wanted last year. But, yeah, I think,
I mean, they would have beaten the Grizzlies last year, but
yes, they
that
would've.
would have meant a play-in. They would have beat the Clippers because the Clippers were injured. They would have would have beat Phoenix. I'm not
I
entirely
I
sure.
would just say they should try and do the same thing they did last year, which is get to 6, because at least if you get to 6, then uh
Don't have to go in
you'll
the
get a
play-in.
series. You don't have to go to the play-in. You get a series,
Yeah.
and you'll get some home games, and then if you can get on a little bit of a roll, you just hope that at that point the Nuggets are not the 3. You hope that
The
it's the T-Wolves or the Thunder, instead of the Nuggets. But again, if you believe, and we talked about this early in the season, where Jokic is going to get his, and they've tried a few different things against him. Some have succeeded, and some have not. It's not. It's a fun matchup. I mean, it's probably going to be sad times for the Warriors, but they
it's gonna
will
be fun.
they will play that series hard because they will feel like they have something to prove for sure. So,
Yeah.
all right, we will figure out what the schedule is for next week. What is your schedule as far as travel? Anytime soon? What's going on?
I got nothing. I'll be here.
All right, so maybe we'll try and do next week on Thursday. So we're also at the mercy of the NBA schedule because we like to do this like on a Wednesday, like a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday around this time. But I don't like doing these shows before Warriors games. I like doing them after Warriors games. So they don't play until Wednesday, which is why this was a good time to do it. So all right, that is it from here. We will be back next week, more than likely on a Thursday, unless something happens. So for Bri, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.